Let's move on to the next topic, analytic process model. This analytic process model consists of steps right from collecting the data till visualizing and interpreting the data that enables any high-level management of an organization to take some important decisions. So how the data is collected? How do we identify various sources of data in an organization? Database administrator of any organization is responsible to locate the sources of data. It may be various departments of the organization. Now, understanding what data is actually needed for the application, that is for the analytic process, which would answer our questions that led us to frame this analytic process model, will help us to identify various sources of data. Now, after selecting the data that would be captured from various departments, we need to stage the data in data mining mats. These data mining mats will help us to categorize the data according to their domain. Say if you are collecting placement data of the students, that can be staged as placement data mat. And if you are collecting the extracurricular activity performance of the students, then we stage the data in a separate data mat. Now, after the data is classified or categorized into various data mats, next step is to clean the data. This is also called as data pre-processing. Data cleaning or data pre-processing will cover 80% of the analytic process model, which prepares the data so that we can rely on the data after it is analyzed and visualized. Why? Because data may not be clean. It may contain a lot of noise. Noise in the sense it may have missing data, or it may have duplicate data, or it may contain some outliers or erroneous data. So we need to ensure that the data is clean before analysis process starts. So after this data pre-processing step, we go for data transformation. Data transformation is, say if we have data parameters such that one data parameters are spanning through a large scale and the other data parameters are within a small scale. Now, when we try to fit various models between these data parameters which span at different scales, it will be hard to depict the data, visualize the data. Also, the data that is visualized may not be appealing to the users of that visualization to take proper decisions. That is why we need to transform the data such that they fall into a common range so that we can plot reliable visualizations. After this data transformation is done, we go for the analytics process. And under this analytic process, we try to find some interesting patterns. Patterns may be sometimes implicit. Say a client or a customer purchasing milk also purchases bread, or purchasing bread also purchases jam. These are associations which are quite implicit, but we may have some associations or patterns which will be quite interesting, which can't be implicitly drawn from the data. They have to be explicitly found out. This frequent set of associations can or patterns can be found through analytics process. Also, we can fit various models in order to predict the data. So that we can make the machine learn from the existing data and make it to predict the future points once it sees some data points that are not seen so far. After this analytics process, visualization is the next step. In visualization, we try to depict all our findings from the analysis process so that high level management, which are not directly interested in seeing lots and lots of rows and columns, we create various types of graphs, we create various types of visualizations in which the high level management will be interested in order to take some important decisions. So these visualizations will be used by the targeted end users so that they can draw some interpretations out of these visualizations and finally make some important decisions or frame strategies that would enable them to capture the market, say for example, get good share in the market, or increase their sales, or plan their manufacturing, so that they can optimize their warehouse and also maintain their stock, where the shelf life is a important parameter to be considered, and any other such good decisions can be taken out of this data analysis process. Now, what are the job profiles involved in this analysis process? The job profiles that are involved are database administrator and the business expert, legal expert, data scientist, and software tool vendors. Then, what is the job of data administrator? Data administrator is the main person who will be aware of the data available within the firm and where the data will be stored and the data definitions about the information that is going to be collected. Hence, the database administrator plays a very crucial role in feeding analytical modeling exercise with its key ingredients, with its key constituents, which is actually data. Because analytics is an iterative exercise, remember, analytics doesn't have a dead end. We have to reiterate, refine as long as we don't arrive at a very accurate model. So this is a iterative exercise. So we need to refine our models, seeing the accuracy of the model, seeing the outcome of the analytics process, see whether the outcome is answering the problem at hand. If it is not answering, then the assumptions we have made about the model that would fit the data may be wrong, or sometimes the data collected may not be appropriate for the problem to be answered. In these cases, we have to reiterate, go back to our previous steps at each stage and find out how good is our assumption, whether it is trying to answer, whether it is answering all our questions or not. So the database administrator will continue to play a very important role as the analytic exercise proceeds. And the next important profile is the business expert. This could, for example, be a credit portfolio manager or a fraud detection expert or a brand manager or e-commerce manager. This person has intensive business experience and business common sense, which is very valuable because the domain experts will actually know what should be the outcome of the analysis process. So it is precisely this knowledge that will help to steer the entire analytics process exercise and interpret its key findings. A key challenge here is that much of the expertise is tacit, it is implicit, and may be hard to elicit at the start of the modeling exercise. So they learn sometimes from the analytic process model and try to arrive at some very key points which would help them to proceed with the analysis process. And the next type of expertise required is legal experts. Legal experts are becoming more and more important these days. Why? Because not all data can be used in an analytical model because of privacy, discrimination, and so forth. So you can't discriminate any customer. Say, for example, if you take credit risk modeling, you can't categorize a customer as a good customer or a bad customer based on his gender, national origin, or religion. And also in web analytics, information is typically gathered by means of cookies, which are files that are stored on users' browsing computer. So when gathering information using cookies, users should be appropriately informed that this part of your information is being gathered by the cookies. So are you okay with it? So we need to raise some alerts to make the customer aware of the data that is being collected. So when gathering information like cookies, we need to inform the customer appropriately. This is subject to regulations at various levels. So a key challenge in this case is privacy and other regulations highly vary depending on the geographical region. Hence, the legal expert should have good knowledge about what data can be used and when it can be used and what kinds of regulations applies in that location. Say, for example, sharing your friend's data may not be illegal in India, but it may be illegal in other countries like UK. So the legal experts will guide us in this scenario. And the next type of expertise that is required is data scientist, also called as data miner or data analyst. This person should possess a thorough understanding of all techniques involved and know how to implement them using appropriate software. So, a good data scientist should also have good communication and presentation skills to report the analytical findings back to the other parties involved. And the last type of job profile that is involved with analytic process model is software tool vendors. These software tool vendors are of different types. Some vendors only provide tools to automate specific steps of the analytical process modeling, and some vendors sell the software that covers the entire analytical modeling process. Some vendors also provide analytics based solutions for specific application areas such as fraud detection, marketing analysis, risk management, etc.